Your home and mortgage connection.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take, how your family or business can benefit in current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day. We have a very focused show. We only chat about items that affect the roof over your head, your bank account, and anything I feel would benefit you. But before we get into our intriguing content today, please join me in welcoming our featured guest and repeat offender on Ron Siegel Radio. Sarah Perkins is with us. Blue Water Credit, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me back.
Glad to have you with us. Let me remind you, if you ever have any home or finance related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you. Then you can reach out to me directly, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are operators standing by.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan, a plan to save you money, I personally work with you. Even if you don't have any needs today, save this number in your phone for future reference, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And yes, we are celebrating. We celebrate every day on Ron Siegel Radio. And I looked at some of the celebrations today, and I could tell, Josh comes up with the good ones. Today is, I don't know, National No Dirty Dishes Day.
I got a bad feeling about this.
No, we're not going to do that one. National Visit Your Relatives Day.
You know better than that.
Yeah. So having beaten anorexia, I'm going to stick with National Cheese Souffle Day today. Throw a little bacon on there if we could. It'd probably be a little better, but everything goes better with bacon. National Cheese Souffle Day. It is today. Let's see what the markets are doing today. Do we want to see what the markets are doing today? It's okay. Nothing too exciting, but we've seen a bit of a reversal today. Dow Jones Industrial Average is now down 48 points. The NASDAQ is down 207. The S&P 500 is down 29. Oil was down earlier in the session. Now it's up $1.51 a barrel. And gold down $6.50 an ounce, 45.40. Not that I'm going to say I told you so, but at about 5,200, I told you that what goes up by double in a year can go down. Be careful. Well, we are seeing that gold has come way down from that 5,200 pricing. 10-year Treasury is pretty flat. It's up a half a basis point. Not a lot to talk about there. And the mortgage bond, it was up earlier in the session. Now we're down, but it's still down only 1 basis point. Now it's exactly flat. So nothing in the news there from the bonds. What's driving all this? Why are we seeing all this? I don't know about you, but are you getting a little fatigued? Is probably a good word. Every day we hear more news about what's going on in Iran, what's going on in the Middle East. And I can tell you that people I talk to, I think it's just fatigue. We hear one day that, it's good. One day it's bad. Early this morning, I saw an article came out. It was about, where is that article? 6:03 Pacific time, that there was a new settlement offer from Iran. I haven't seen what happened, but the market was behaving like it liked it. Must have been some statements that I have not seen yet. It's 8:12 U.S. Senior official, U.S. rejects Iran's most recent proposal. So it took about 2 hours and 8 minutes for that one to change. And it's just the way it's going anymore. So it's always a fatigue. I know that you've got the president said they're meeting in the Situation Room tomorrow. Okay, I told you last week before the summit in China, just from the stories that I read from the news that I follow, that we were going to see something within a couple of days after the China summit. We weren't going to see anything go on while the president was in China or en route to or from. but we were going to see something going on. You know, he can say what he wants, and I am a Trump supporter, but I will tell you, he can say whatever he wants, but he's definitely following the market. He always follows the market. He's also got to follow the elections. And I know he said that he didn't care about the elections over the weekend, and I'm just going to say,
You know better than that.
exactly, because his agenda goes out the window if the Democrats win. You know, if they take back the House and or the Senate, there goes out the window. Now, think about this one. If the Democrats take back the House of Representatives, and this is a scary, scary thought. Who becomes the Speaker of the House? That would be Hakeem Jeffries. Now, you've got Hakeem Jeffries, number 3 in line to the presidency. That would be a scary thought.
What are you doing?
Yeah, that would not be fun. So, got to be real careful. The elections have consequences, and that's the biggest one right now. I don't think that the Senate will go back to the Democrats, but if the House does, then you start all the impeachment proceedings again and all the other garbage that goes on. So, the president has to be watching if as I believe and as he says he's out for the good of the country. He has to watch those midterm elections and be very, very active in making sure that his agenda gets followed through on, which means he's got to have the House and the Senate. So we'll keep watching that. What does that mean for us in the mortgage world? What does that mean for us in the bond market? Well, it means that he's got to sooner rather than later, he's got to get involved in getting mortgage rates down. And I'm looking at the 30-year fixed rate loan as reported by Mortgage News Daily as of Friday, 6.65%.
Ow!
Now, if you're in the world that I talk about a lot, don't worry about rates. It's strategy, because you can change the rate. It's hard to change the strategy. So if you've got a lot of debt, right now is the time. Don't worry about the rate. The rate is what it is. There's nothing we can do about that, right?
It is what it is.
But you go and you get your household in order using our key steps, rsrlinks.com/key steps. You get your financial house in order. It monitors your credit. It monitors for identity theft. You get your budget in there. You get your household assets in there. Then what we're going to talk about today is part of the interim between step 1, getting your household budget in order. You pay off your debt strategically. Sarah Perkins is going to help us with that. You're going to go and you're going to deal with getting your credit in order, because that's another key component of your household structure. We've talked about that. What does 50 points on your credit score do for you? Massive amounts. So we're going to talk about that as well. Sarah Perkins can give us some guidelines there. That's what her company does. So we're going to talk about some strategy there. Strategy beats rate always. And then once you go through this process, and it's not an overnight fix. Now, yes, there might be some things that can be done strategically to help you quickly, but the strategy that we talk about with Sarah and our friends at Blue Water Credit, at least for the last 15 years on Ron Siegel Radio, the idea here is you get your household in order, and then when rates come down, and they always go up and they go down, but we watch strategically for you. We send you an update every month on what your house is doing, what your rates are doing. We send it every single month. Doesn't cost you anything if you are within our private client group. 6 to 12 months from now, we look at your budget, your household, and we say, does it make sense to lower your interest rate again? Now, if you went and bought a house, you can't change the purchase price of the property. It's probably going to keep appreciating. If and when interest rates come down, your property is going to appreciate faster. That's what happens historically. But now interest rates come down, you can change your interest rate. So the highest price you're going to ever pay on your property, on your mortgage, is what you have now, unless you want to take cash out. But today's your highest price, because you don't have to change to a higher price ever. The only change you would do is to a lower price. Oh, by the way, Would you like to fix your interest rate and change it? I just helped show somebody over the weekend how they could fix their interest rate without doing anything, without costing them a nickel, to 5% effective interest rate. 5.00 effective interest rate. You want to know how to do that? Just call us, 800-306-1990. You are listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. When we come back, got a great broadcast lined up for you. We're going to talk today about the pricing mistake that could cost you your sale of your house and top tips to boost your credit score. All that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you missed any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Are you a veteran, own a home, and need money? The Siegel Lending Team is here to help veterans refinance and get the money they need. The VA 100 lets you borrow up to 100% of your home's value, refinance your mortgages, consolidate credit cards, and lower your payments by an average of $700 a month. And the Siegel Lending Team knows that character means more than a credit score. Call 800-306-1990. That's 800-306-1990. Rate subject to change without notice. Licensed by the California Department of Corporations, NMLS 21037, and DRE number 018694452. You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Mortgage Minute today being brought to you by rsrloans.com, rsrloans.com. And every day at this time, OBMMI, they provide the most comprehensive, accurate, timely, and interactive analysis of pricing ever conducted in the mortgage industry, calculated from actual locked rates with consumers across 35% of all mortgage transactions nationwide. They do not tell us points paid, points received, or the APR. They tell us the number you put in your mortgage calculator to determine your principal and interest payment. What did rates do on Friday? They were ugly. The conventional 30-year fixed was up 1/8 of a point on Friday alone, 6.499. Jumbo 30-year fixed, 6.656. That was up. FHA 30-year fixed, 6.291. That was up. VA 30-year fixed, 6.157. That was up. And the USDA 30-year fixed, 6.138. That was up. Every one of them were up. Now, they don't tell us the points paid, points received. They tell us the number to put in that mortgage calculator. And if you don't have a mortgage calculator, all you have to do is go to our site, rsrlinks.com/calculators. We've got almost 80 illustrators in there right now. Anything you want to know in the world of finance, you want to retire early, there's an illustrator for that. You want to know how I was saying in the last segment to get that 5% interest rate? There's an illustrator in there for that. Anything you want. And if you want to know that principal and interest payment for your mortgage, there is an illustrator for that, rsrlinks.com/calculators. And if you want to understand where the market is going and our thoughts on the market, join the Ron Siegel Radio community. rsrlinks.com/HBOD, rsrlinks.com/HBOD. What are the markets doing today? Well, as I told you, they've turned around a little bit. The 10-year Treasury is basically flat, 4.593. S&P 500 is down 21 points, and the mortgage bond is down 3 basis points. Remember, bond down, rate up. It's mathematics, not an opinion. Why? Well, we're looking at oil prices. Oil prices were down earlier, and now they're up above $106 a barrel, or almost $107 a barrel. And we've seen that increase there has brought the market down. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average now has gone back up again. The NASDAQ is down, and the S&P 500 is down. Bonds are having a difficult time, mostly due to oil prices, but there has been a dual shock with the Fed buying $40 billion per month of Treasury bills from December to April because of the liquidity concerns they've had with the banks. The Fed has been buying Treasury bills directly from banks to inject liquidity, but then they go and lend a lot of that money out, creating more money and adding to the inflationary pressures. And inflation has been ugly. This is different than when the Fed did QE and bought 10-year treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, which helped long-term rates. The Fed has started to taper their purchases down to $20 billion per month and may taper this further through the end of the year, but they will still be buying. Kevin Warsh is not a big fan of quantitative easing or the Fed purchases, so he may put an end to this since he is the new Fed chair. The oil situation is the main driver there, and there does not appear to be an end in sight. If anything, there may be more escalation ahead, as President Trump has said that the clock is ticking. Where have we heard that before? On a daily basis with Iran, and if they don't get moving, there won't be anything left. And we've heard that one before too. Stock market has been on a tear, not in all areas, but especially in the AI and tech space. We can't help but be reminded of the dot-com run-up. For those of us that are old enough to remember, the dot-com bubble of 2000. It was led by the revolution of the internet and caused a parabolic rise in the stock market. Similar to that, we are seeing a narrow sector of winners. NVIDIA now makes up 8% of the entire S&P 500. So one stock out of 500 accounts for 8% of the entire price of that S&P 500. Largest share ever and bigger than the entire healthcare sector. Think of that. NVIDIA has more influence over the S&P 500 than all of the healthcare stocks combined. They report earnings on Wednesday, which will be very important for the market. Their earnings have been very strong, but the estimates have been priced for perfection. How long do you think they will remain perfect? The Shiller priced earnings ratio is at the second highest level in history since the dot-com bubble. So there's some frothy valuations out there, but the earnings have been strong. Additionally, while the NASDAQ and S&P 500 hit all-time highs last week, 9% of stocks hit their 52-week lows, which is the first time those two things have happened simultaneously, underscoring the bifurcated market. 51% of stocks are beneath their 50-day moving average as well. The breadth of the market has not been that strong. We are not saying that there is going to be a crash and this could continue some time, but we want you to be aware of the similarities and go into this with your eyes wide open. Looking at some charts, the NASDAQ, since April 2025, in roughly 13 months, there's been an 80% rise in the NASDAQ just over the last month and a half. Remember, I've told you this all the time. Anything that goes up that rapidly can come down just as rapidly. So be careful. That's the Mortgage Minute, brought to you by rsrloans.com, rsrloans.com. So let's get into our subject of the day. And it's one that we actually find we get the most comments of anything that we talk about on Ron Siegel Radio. More comments and more questions come in chatting with us about credit than anything else. And everybody's got the answer. Now, I would submit that about 90% of the people have the wrong answer. And that's why we bring in Sarah Perkins, because she's got the right answers. Good morning, Sarah. How are you today?
Good. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me again.
Well, we appreciate your knowledge and sharing, because we did I think last week or the week before, we did a story on what a 50-point change in someone's credit score does. And it's to their house, but it's also to the rest of their life, right? Not just the house, but the car, credit cards. I know they're not supposed to look at it for jobs, but I'll tell you, they look at it for jobs in other ways. They're not supposed to look at it for insurance, but they have ways of looking there too. So tell me, what's the latest and greatest? I mean, I keep hearing the biggie that I hear about right now, and it's something I've told people to be careful of because I've called it a FACO score for years. Is it really a fake anymore?
So yeah, you're talking probably about the Vantage score, which that is something I've been teaching for a while too. Like, don't look at Credit Karma. It's the wrong scoring model, but it's been in the works for a little while now. And it just came out where they approved the Vantage 4.0 to be used in lending decisions for mortgages now, which is huge because there's just different opportunities for people to create a credit score and get credit that maybe traditionally wouldn't have been able to with the FICO score.
So Vantage, is that now? How do I find Vantage? Is that what I would see at Credit Karma? Because they just say credit score. They don't really tell us Vantage. or Credit Sesame, or, I had someone just the other day send me a note saying their experience score. Didn't say Experian FICO. They just said their experience score. Are those what the Vantage is, or is Vantage something completely different?
So your Vantage, usually it should say in small print way at the bottom, like what scoring model that they're using, either Vantage or FICO. Credit Sesame and Credit Karma are definitely the Vantage scores. There are different models. So they're the Vantage 3.0. And so for mortgage lending, it's now the Vantage 4.0. But yeah, so the Vantage took Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. They got together and they decided they wanted to make a score that competes with the FICO score, essentially is what the difference is.
Okay, so you said something that I want to highlight there. So when we look at we have to look and make sure we've got the right model. Because if they're coming out with a 3.0, that really is meaningless when we're looking at a mortgage when we need 4.0.
Correct. And even with the FICO, I think a lot of people get confused and see a FICO score that their bank gives them. And typically it's a scoring model. We call it scoring model 8, which is just a general score, where the mortgage is very specific in a model for the FICO and the Vantage score that they use, which is a little bit tougher to get your hands on unless you are having a lender pull your credit, or you go to a website that provides all the different scoring models. So beware, even if you see a FICO score, it's probably not the same score that your lender's looking at.
That's great information, because I know I watch my credit and I play with it just so I can see what's going to affect what. So I use myfico.com, and I think that's a FICO model 8, I think is the one what they're providing.
Well, you can pull actually a report through myfico.com that gives you every single scoring model that includes the mortgage one. But a lot of times, yeah, probably when you're playing with like a simulator on their website, it's usually going to be that general score 8, which can give you an idea if something's pushing your score one way or the other. But there are some different specific things that the mortgage model will look at that might penalize you a little bit more for a late payment or paying off of collections. Those kind of things make a difference between the scoring models.
I was fascinated this time. I let one of my credit cards go from a 3% utilization to a 10% utilization, and my score dropped. So, it's just interesting. And the reason I do it is probably similar to what you do at the company. And I don't know who does it, but I'm sure someone does. Is you let things happen like that just so you can report them and know, so you can share that information for educational purposes.
Correct. And I think it's been like a misconception that 30% utilization was like the golden point, keeping your cards at 30% of what their credit limits are. But we have found, playing with those simulators or just real life experience, that if you can get your utilization under 10%, that's really where you're going to see the most points for that category of your credit score.
So if we're looking at a FICO and a Vantage, are the numbers the same, or are they completely different? You just have to understand what the lender is going to use under each one of them.
So the range and the numbers are the same. So it can be kind of confusing when you look at a number, which one am I looking at? But it's also nice that the score range stays the same. They are looking at the same kind of components of a credit score, but they put a different level of importance on different categories, like your utilization or your mix of credit or your payment history. So they weigh those a little bit different, which can cause a skew in the score one way or the other between the two scoring models.
It was confusing, and now it's more confusing. So we're going to keep on watching these things, but I'm glad you're here to teach us. When we come back, I want to chat with you a little bit. Maybe you can educate us on something that's called this trending scores or trending models or something like that. But we're going to continue our conversation with Sarah Perkins when we come back. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. The pricing mistake that could cost you your sale of your house. Really? We're going to talk about that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Confused about the home buying process? Or curious how much you really know about buying a home? Take the First Home IQ quiz to test your understanding of buying a home. Created by the nonprofit First Home IQ, this 5-minute quiz will give you a score, what you missed, and why. Take the quiz in 5 minutes at rsrlinks.com/FHIQ and find out what you need to know about buying your first home. That's rsrlinks.com/FHIQ.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions, as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. The pricing mistake that could cost you your sale. Most sellers come into the market with one number in mind, and it's often the one that costs them the most. That's their asking price. A survey from Realtor.com shows about 8 in 10, 80% of sellers expect to sell at or above their asking price today. But here's where things get interesting. In reality, only about 4 out of 10, roughly 40% actually do. Big gap. And that's where a lot of sellers get caught off guard. So why the disconnect? And how can you set yourself up to be one of the 4 in 10 that get that top dollar? Let's break it down. What should you really expect to get for your house? That 40% may sound low at first, but it's not. If you look back to the last typical year for the housing market, 2019, and what we're really seeing is a return to what's normal. And if you're watching us on RonSiegelRadio.tv, any of our socials, the ABC, News and Talk AM 1490 or FM 98.1 video feeds, you are seeing a chart of normal. If anything, slightly more homeowners are able to sell above list price today compared to 2019. It only feels low because the past few years were anything but typical. Between 2020 and mid-2022, buyer demand was sky high and the number of homes for sale was at record lows. Almost everything sold over asking. Now the market has shifted. There are more homes for sale. Buyers have more options, and that means they're more selective about how they spend their money. In other words, the rules have changed, and pricing like it's still 2021 is where sellers run into trouble. You have to meet the market where it is if you really want to cash in big. Here's the reality. It's easy to think pricing high gives you room to negotiate, but it usually does the opposite. When your home is priced above what buyers expect, in this market, they don't negotiate. They move on because buyers notice price first. And if your home doesn't line up with similar options in your area, it may not even get a showing. And that's when things start to snowball. A high price gets less interest from buyers. Less interest means fewer offers, and fewer offers usually means more time on the market. Take a look at the next chart from the Indiana Association of Realtors. While this data is from one state, the general trend is going to hold true across many markets in this country. It shows that homes listed at or under market, they sell fast, but homes priced high, they linger. And the delay comes at a very real cost. And we've talked about charts like this before many, many times. When a home sits that long without offers, a lot of sellers will do a price reduction. According to Realtor.com, 16.7% of sellers are going that route today. What does a price reduction tell a buyer? What does it even tell the seller? It means somebody didn't know what the value of the property was when they listed in the first place. But here's the real problem. Even a price cut doesn't guarantee a sale. In fact, some buyers will see a reduction as a sign something's wrong with the house, even when nothing is. That's why data from the National Association of Realtors, NAR, shows the longer a home sits, the bigger that price cut tends to be to attract buyers. And you can see that on our next chart. Price cuts get bigger the longer the house sits. So what starts as a strategy to leave room for to negotiate can end up costing you more in the long run. Even though listing at or even just shy of market value may sound counterintuitive, if you're looking to get as much money for your house as possible, a lot of the time it really is the best strategy, because the goal isn't just to list your house to see what price sticks. It's to price it in a way that creates demand from day one. Oh, yeah, I think we've talked about that. rsrlinks.com/salesmax. rsrlinks.com/salesmax, where we went through and showed you exactly how to maximize the sale price of your house. Not the listing price, the sale price. NAR puts it best, quote, while some sellers are pricing their homes higher than ever, a more Goldilocks frame of mind is a better approach to avoid price cuts and lingering time on the market. In other words, there's a sweet spot. Too high and buyers disappear. Too low and they question the value. But right in the middle, that's where the magic happens. And that's where the right agent comes in. They help you understand what buyers are actually paying right now, how your home compares, and how to price it so it stands out immediately. And in today's market, that strategy is the difference between listing high, watching it sit, and selling it for less. Or number two, price it right, creating competition, and putting yourself in a position to win from the start. And I will sell you again, rsrlinks.com/salesmax. I show you how to get every real estate agent in your market clamoring for your house to show it to everybody. How do you get all the agents to look and want to sell your house and not the neighbors? I tell you about it. How do you get your house on TV every time? I tell you about it. And how to put your house in front of 50,000 people in the next 10 days. I tell you about it. rsrlinks.com/salesmax. rsrlinks.com/salesmax. Bottom line, a lot of homeowners think they can list high now and negotiate later. But that's a mistake that costs them, and it's the reason only 4 out of 10 sellers are getting their asking price or more. If you want to be in that group, it starts with getting the right price from day one. Let's connect so we can make sure you are doing things the right way to maximize the money that goes into your pocket. That is the Real-Time Real Estate segment brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. Continuing our conversation, our credit guru, Sarah Perkins, is with us, Blue Water Credit. We're talking all things credit right now. And how do you maximize that FICO score, maximize that credit score? And what are these new things that we keep hearing about? We've been talking about the same things for decades. And now all of a sudden we got all this new stuff to talk about. Trending credit, Sarah. What is trending credit? Is anybody even using it?
So when you're talking about the trending credit there, it's really focusing on what has happened over the last 24 months for your credit history. So that's going to be weighing a lot more importance than maybe something that was 3-4 years older. So they're really focusing on what have you been doing with your credit and your money in the last rolling 24 months. So even more reason to stay on top of your credit.
So is that on Vantage or is that on FICO or both? Where would you find that?
It's pretty much both. Are really putting a big importance on that last 24 months. It's going to be both Vantage and FICO.
Okay, so I tell folks all the time. I the first loan I helped somebody with was in 1983, so it goes back just a day or two, and we didn't talk anything then about rent or utilities. We didn't even have cell phones. Are those things anywhere in any of these things now?
So that's one of the new pluses with this Vantage score, because FICO never really recognized if you put your rent or utility cell phone payments when it actually comes to the mortgage lending side. So we would see that a lot on credit reports, and underwriters would just brush it off. It wasn't incorporated in your FICO score. With Vantage, this is allowing people to use those type of things to now build credit. So maybe somebody who is a little bit leery about opening a credit card, but they do have good payment history that they can show on their credit. So that's why we used to say before, don't worry about putting those things on your credit. But as more lenders start looking at this Vantage score, this can really help that, section of the population that doesn't have the traditional credit. And this can be a way for them to build their credit score.
That should be helpful. So, and the other one that I wanted to talk to you about was, I did a story on this one again a couple months ago. Buy now, pay later. Is that affecting anybody's FICO? I know it should affect their debt to income ratios, but if we don't see it, we don't know it.
Yeah, so that's something new that FICO has incorporated in their scores, is these buy now, pay laters. And what we're talking about is your Affirm, your Klarna, where you're taking out these very short loans to, pay for something. I did it for our son's electric bike because it was zero interest for 6 months. And then these things are now being put on your credit report. So people need to be careful, because now if you're missing payments with that can hurt your credit report. But it is also another way you can build credit if you're doing these type of loans and maybe don't have the credit cards.
And that one there, you brought that one up as a good thing. Most of those buy now, pay later, they give you zero interest for 6 months. But if you go 6 months in a day, then they're going to run that interest all the way back to day one. So be real careful when you're doing that. As a consumer advocate, I say, pay it off in 5.5 months. So you don't have any problems right there. So, you just the one to be careful of. Another one that I saw just recently, and again, this is something being me watching my own scores all the time. So I paid off a car loan, and I said, that's going to probably that should help my credit, right? I mean, I don't have that car payment anymore. So it helped my debt to income ratio, of course. But then I saw my credit score dropped. Paying things off should be good, shouldn't it?
Yeah, you would think you're doing something financially responsible. You should be rewarded in a higher credit score. But what has happened is those installment loans like cars or personal loans don't fall under the credit utilization tab of a credit score, which is highly important with the credit. So when you pay off credit cards, that helps your utilization. When you pay off a loan, what typically ends up happening is that's usually your only installment loan on your credit. And now you have a paid off installment loan. So you don't have anything helping you in that mix of credits area of your credit score. So people will often see like a dip. Usually you can recover, over the next few months. But again, this is why probably lenders like yourself say, be careful in paying anything off unless you have to because of that debt to income ratio. Talk to somebody, because if you start spending money on paying off installment loans or maybe even collections, you're thinking that you're doing something good, but it actually can end up harming you.
Now, that collection one is always a biggie. If you start saying, God, I paid it off, that should help me. And, it's not the collection shows paid. And all of a sudden you've re-aged it and now you got problems again.
Yeah, what happens is a paid collection actually hurts you the same as an unpaid collection when it comes to the mortgage score. So, and maybe the credit card scoring model, you do get some points. So that's why it's really important, if you are going to pay off those collections, making sure that they're getting a deletion with that payoff.
And that's another thing where you need to go to somebody really knows what they're doing, like Blue Water Credit, to have them help you with those things. And yes, it's going to cost you some money. Who cares? It's going to save you money long term to get it done the right way. I know you can go and push the dumb button on the side of Experian so that their AI can tell you that they looked at it and it doesn't mean anything. Go to somebody that can help you, that knows what they're doing. And when we come back, what we're going to chat about is some top tips to boost your credit scores. Let's see if we can get some inside scoop from Sarah Perkins. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Do you know a homeowner experiencing divorce? Do you know a real estate reference and the divorce decree could cost tens of thousands of dollars? A certified divorce mortgage planning and real estate report could save you thousands of dollars, and it's free from your local certified divorce lending professional. Reach out to Ron today. RonIsMyLender.com. Again, RonIsMyLender.com. Licensed under NMLS 217037, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And as always, I talk too much, so I'm just going to tell you that the best loan on the market, if you qualify, is our Wealth Builder loan, rsrwealthbuilder.com, rsrwealthbuilder.com. Want to pay your home off in 8 to 10 years? Want to have an effective interest rate under 2%? No guarantees, but that's what they've been modeling the last ones I've been watching. That's borrow smart, repay smart, rsrwealthbuilder.com. We're going to continue our conversation with Sarah Perkins, Blue Water Credit. Let's learn. I would say inside baseball, but I'm in Southern California and we have the Angels here. So we don't want anything to do with the Angels because we want the winning tips. And all the Angels seem to do is lose by double digits. So give us some top tips here, Sarah.
Sound like me. I'm a Giants fan, so we're not doing any better. So there's some great tips that people can do on their own that they don't need a professional to get a credit score bump, even up to like 60 points over the next 30 days. So the first one's going to be a little bit more preventative, making sure that you are not missing any payments. And usually this is because people don't have their account set to like an auto pay, or they're not paying the minimum amount, or they have a card that they forgot about that gets hit with one of those annual fees. So making sure, every month you're going and looking at your credit card statements and you have that payment set up for at least the minimum amount, because one late payment is going to tank your score up to 100 points, and it takes years to then build that loss back. So that's a huge one. I would say the next one is going to be your credit utilization. So this is where we talk about paying your credit card balances down, and specifically your credit cards, not your loan. So FICO likes to see, and Vantage, a utilization that's between 0 and 10%. So, if you have $1,000 limit, getting that balance down to $100 or less. But one tip I give people is if you don't necessarily have the funds to pay it down, one of the inside tips is talk to your creditor and see if they'll give you a balance increase or a credit limit increase. Most of the time they can do that without even pulling a hard inquiry. And that is a way that you can, lower your utilization without having to come out of pocket with any cash. The other tip that goes along with that is if you're someone who pays off your credit cards each month, but then, reuses them. I do it all the time for the points. The key note to remember there is whatever balance is on your statement, that is what gets reported to the bureau. So you think, oh, I'm paying off my credit cards each month. Why isn't my utilization down to 0? Well, you're probably paying it after you get the statement, and then it becomes a cyclical thing where then you rack the debt right back up, and you're not really getting the credit for paying off your credit cards each month. So the tip would be to go on maybe a week or before to pay off those balances before the statement comes out.
Love that one. And it's ironic that you say that, because all I knew is that you had some tips for us. And we talk about a lot of these things on a video that we did, a segment we did, rsrccpayment.com, rsrccpayment.com. And it goes through and explains in depth a lot of the things that Sarah just talked about. Now, Sarah, I want to go to one other area that I want to chat with you, explore with you a little bit, is at what point should our listeners be calling a credit expert to help them with their credit reports?
So typically when you're dealing with any kind of derogatory accounts, so if you have accounts that have late payments, if you have charged off accounts, if you have collections, public records like a bankruptcy, those are going to be the key things that you're going to want to talk to us about, because you don't want to jump in and start paying things off and wasting money that you could use on a down payment for a house and then have it turn around and not even really help your credit score. So yeah, there's AI tools that say, hey, pay this down, you should get this number of points. Really, they're looking at the utilization. But we go in and strategically look, what accounts do you have? What is holding your credit score down? What is your budget? And how do we use that money to strategically pay whatever creditors are going to boost your score the most? And myself, I do all the debt negotiations. So I know which creditors or which debt buyers are going to give me a discount plus a deletion, which is key when negotiating any debt on your credit report. So yeah, once you make those payments, it's hard for us to go back and then reverse it and try to get that deletion. So before you make any major payments towards any, negative accounts, definitely talk to a professional.
And that's a key one right there, is because so many people, they can go on ChatGPT and this is what you need to do. And more often than not, ChatGPT does a great job of information, but it doesn't negotiate.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that last little part. And what I look at constantly is, because I use it a lot, it tells you the what and the why, but it doesn't really do a good job of the how.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to call Sarah and the team at Blue Water Credit, is to find out the how of it. And it's one of the things we talk about. Where did we come up with HBOD? I have a lot of people ask me, why does your community called rsrlinks.com/HBOD? Well, it's your household board of directors, right? Apple needs a board of directors because they have nobody that knows everything, and NVIDIA and every other major company. Yet in our house, we think we can do everything on our own. And the key concept here is you need that lender that knows what they're doing and knows the guidelines. You need the credit expert that says, hey, don't pay this off, or pay it off through escrow or something like that. There's different ways of dealing with it, and the realtor to deal with that. So it's all these different areas that you want to have experts on your team. And I'd say, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, Blue Water Credit has been the experts that I've turned to for everything, because, I can study all of these different things, but, I didn't know that buy now, pay later is dealing with your credit today, right? Or these Vantage scores. Blue Water Credit, Sarah and her team, they're up there dealing with this all day, every day. And where you might send a letter to Experian, they might have a person that they can talk to. Where you might have a charge with or something with Credit One, or what's the other one? The guys with the what's in your wallet, Capital One, right? They might know somebody there that they can talk to and say, hey, what if we do X or Y or Z? And remember, nothing has to be on your credit report, right? That's what the law says. Nothing has to be there. That's how they tell you, well, we can't take it off. And they tell Sarah, of course we'll take it off, because they know who to talk to. Sarah, I know that there's a couple of different ways that people work with fees. There's some that are legal, there's some that are illegal, there's some that have gone to court. Tell us how we get the ones that keep us out of trouble.
So you're talking about the fees that are paid for the services, I'm assuming.
Right.
Yeah, so there are a lot of laws that go with our industry, and I like to tell people, like 99% of the people out there doing what we do are probably operating illegally. So they're charging fees that they're not supposed to. We do a flat monthly fee. We have to perform the service before we can even charge the fee. We can't make certain promises. We have to, with negotiations, it's going to be a flat fee, where if you go to a dedicated debt settlement company, they're going to charge you a percentage of what the debt amount is, where we're just like a flat, typically $100 to $200 to just settle the debt, regardless of it being $2,000 or $100,000. So, and then you're with our program typically only 6 months. So you may find somebody that charges less than us, but then they're keeping you in a program for 18 months, which does you no good, because we know after about 5 or 6 rounds of disputes, the bureaus aren't even looking at them anymore. So we have a short amount of time to send out these disputes, use the laws in our favor to get these items removed.
And that's the key right there. You save the best part for last. You're using the laws and understanding the law, not just, oh, it's not mine, and hoping for the best. There's enough laws that you can use, as long as you know them, to accomplish what's right. And I know that you guys aren't out there saying that this isn't ours, and that the dumb lines that some of these people use. They just have to follow the law.
Yeah, there's certain rules that have to go with credit reporting. So the information has to be accurate, can't be erroneous. So we know all those little minute things that the regular consumer doesn't realize that how they're reporting on their credit report is not right. And because of those technicalities, we're able to get it removed. We're not just throwing the, hey, it's fraud, it's not my account, for it then to just pop up later. And we hate to see that happen. It happens all the time. People are at the middle of the escrow and then this collection pops right back up that they thought was gone.
Yeah, it's amazing how that happens. And believe me, lenders look at the credit report at the beginning and at the end. It's not just a one and done. If you want to meet Sarah Perkins or the team over at Blue Water Credit, give me a call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Sarah, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing the expertise with all of us. We learn something new every single time. And again, if you want to meet Sarah or the team over there at Blue Water Credit, if you want to engage with them, retain them, give me a call at 800-306-1990. Happy to put you in touch. And as always, we ask, set that first radio preset button to come back here and join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to Josh and Sean who are engineering us today. And of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. And remember, make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.